In February 2026, a survey of 600 HR professionals asked a simple question. Of the companies that fired workers because of AI, how many are already rehiring them? Two-thirds. Two-thirds of companies that eliminated jobs in the name of AI are already hiring people back for those exact same roles. More than half of those rehires happened within 6 months of the original layoffs, and nearly 1 in 3 companies said the cost of rehiring ended up exceeding the savings from the original cuts. This is not a prediction. This is not a warning about what might happen. This is what is already happening right now, inside the same boardrooms that celebrated AI as the future of work just 18 months ago. But behind that statistic are real people, and one of them is Mark. Mark was a software developer, 24 years old, 4 years of studying computer science. He had built real projects, written clean code, and solved the kind of technical problems that companies spend millions trying to solve. He was good at his job. His manager told him so in his last performance review, the same review that arrived 3 weeks before the email that ended his employment. The email was 5 lines. His role was being eliminated as part of a strategic shift toward AI-assisted development. His last day was Friday. System access would be revoked at noon. No warning, no conversation. Just a 5-line email and a locked laptop. Mark spent the next 6 months applying for new roles. Over 100 applications, 11 responses, 1 offer at a salary 30% lower than what he had been earning. He took it. He had rent to pay. And then 8 months after he was fired, his former employer called. They were rebuilding the team. The AI tool that replaced Mark was failing. Would he consider coming back? Mark's story would sound unusual if it were isolated, but it is not isolated. It is one version of a pattern playing out inside companies around the world. Companies that made the same calculation, celebrated the same savings, and are now quietly reversing the same decision. In 2023, Klarna, one of the world's largest financial technology companies, cut approximately 700 customer service employees and replaced them with AI. The CEO publicly declared that AI could already do all of the jobs that humans do. The company celebrated $10 million in savings. The story made headlines on every major business channel. Other companies took notice. If Klarna could do it, anyone could. By early 2026, the same CEO was telling Bloomberg something very different. We focused too much on efficiency and cost. The result was lower quality, and that is not sustainable. Klarna began quietly rehiring human customer service workers. What happened in between is the story most financial media are not telling you. The AI could handle the routine queries, the simple questions with predictable answers, but customers with real problems, billing disputes, payment errors, situations requiring judgment and empathy, were receiving generic responses that did not actually solve anything. Repeat contact rates climbed, customer satisfaction scores dropped. The brand damage was real and it did not appear anywhere on the efficiency spreadsheet that justified the layoffs. Klarna paid to fire 700 people, then paid to hire them back, then absorbed the brand damage that occurred while the experiment was running. The $10 million in savings did not survive the accounting, but Klarna was not an outlier. It was a preview. According to Forrester Research, 55% of employers now say they regret their AI-driven layoffs. Gartner predicts that by 2027, half of all companies that attributed headcount reductions to AI will be rehiring for those same functions. The CareerMinds survey found that in many cases, 1 in 3 employers spent more on restaffing than they saved from the original layoffs. Only about 1/4 of companies ended up financially ahead. Companies are spending aggressively to make this experiment work. Global enterprise AI spending reached over $300 billion in 2025. Gartner projects AI application software spending will nearly triple to $270 billion in 2026 alone. AI deployment across enterprises surged 400% between 2024 and 2025, according to Forrester Research. Yet only 12 to 18% of those companies captured meaningful return on investment. IBM surveyed 2,000 CEOs and found that just 1 in 4 AI projects delivers the return on investment it promised. Nearly 2/3 of those same CEOs admitted they were investing in AI before they had a clear understanding of the value it would bring. They were watching other CEOs get applause for AI announcements, and they wanted the applause too. But while the CEOs were collecting applause, someone was paying the price. Not on any earnings call, not in any investor presentation, in apartment blocks and shared houses and job search portals at 2 in the morning. The people paying the price were the ones who never got a say in the decision. The Stanford Digital Economy Lab analyzed payroll records from millions of workers across thousands of companies. Since late 2022, the exact moment AI tools entered mainstream use, Employment for software developers aged 22 to 25 has declined by nearly 20%. In the same period, employment for developers aged 35 to 49 at those same companies grew by 9%. The companies were not eliminating software development, they were eliminating the entry roles. AI tools can produce the basic code outputs that junior developers are hired to produce. And AI does not need a salary, health insurance, or a visa. So companies made a calculation. Keep the experienced developers to manage the AI. Replace the juniors with the tools. Cut costs. Tell investors you are building an AI-first engineering culture. But here's what those companies discovered when the junior developers were gone. The experienced developers who were supposed to manage the AI started taking longer to complete their work. A randomized controlled trial conducted by METR, a leading AI research organization, tested experienced developers working on their own mature code bases. Developers using AI tools took 19% longer to complete tasks than those working without them. Not faster, slower. Before the study, those developers predicted AI would make them 24% faster. After experiencing the slowdown themselves, they still believed AI had made them 20% faster, despite data showing they were slower. The gap between how AI productivity feels and what it actually measures was 39 percentage points. The illusion of speed was consuming the reality of time. The code quality problem runs deeper. A study analyzing 153 million lines of code found that AI-generated code has significantly higher rates of what researchers call code churn. Code discarded less than 2 weeks after being written because it does not integrate properly into the systems it was placed in. Developers are spending weeks cleaning up what AI produces. The cost of that cleanup is invisible on productivity dashboards, but very visible to the engineers carrying the workload. Before we continue, in an earlier video, we showed you the data on AI job displacement across every knowledge sector simultaneously and the broader economic consequences. The link to that video is in the description below. And when things go wrong with AI code, there is no one to hold responsible. When a human employee makes a mistake, there is accountability. They can be questioned, retrained, or let go. The organization has a mechanism for addressing the failure and learning from it. But when AI makes a mistake, sends a wrong email, misreads a customer dispute, generates code with subtle logical flaws that pass automated testing but fail in production, the accountability chain disappears. The tool cannot be held responsible. The vendor's liability is limited. The company absorbs the cost in brand damage, customer trust, and rework. Harvard Business Review surveyed over 1,000 executives and found that most AI-driven layoffs were based on anticipated future capabilities, not demonstrated current performance. Companies were firing people for what AI might be able to do someday, not for what it could do on the day the decision was made. And what they were left with was a workforce stripped of the institutional memory that no AI model has yet learned to replicate. And those entry-level roles that were eliminated, the roles where Mark could not get hired, those roles were not just cost line items. They were the pipeline that produces the experienced developers of the next decade. Stanford's researchers warned directly that industries might have difficulty finding the next generation of experienced hires if entry-level workers do not have opportunities to get started. The companies that eliminated the entry-level roles did not just reduce costs, they severed the pipeline that grows the talent they will desperately need in 5 years. So here's where we are. Companies spent billions replacing workers with AI. 2/3 of them are already rehiring. The cost of reversing the experiment canceled the savings for most of them. The developers who remained found themselves slower and buried under AI-generated code that required expensive cleanup. And an entire generation of workers like Mark were locked out of the market while the experiment was running. Here are the questions worth sitting with. If 2/3 of companies that fired workers for AI are already rehiring them, who is held accountable for the livelihoods disrupted in between? If companies are eliminating the entry-level roles where the next generation of experienced workers learns their craft, where do the senior developers and experienced analysts of 2035 come from? And if the workers who lose their jobs to AI lose their income and stop spending, who buys the products that the companies using AI are trying to sell? We track the warning signs that move before the headlines do. If you want to see them before everyone else, hit the subscribe button now. And if you found this video helpful, like and share it with your friends. Thank you.